A single dad accidentally texted his boss, "I love you," and what happened next changed his entire life. He thought he'd be fired immediately, but when she showed up at his door at midnight, the truth was far more unexpected. A secret that could destroy both their careers, a confession that no one saw coming, and a twist that will leave you speechless. Stay until the end, because what his boss did with that text message will shock you completely. Chicago, 1990. The city was blanketed in snow that February evening when Marcus Coleman, 34 years old, sat at his kitchen table staring at his pager with absolute horror. Marcus was a single father to 7-year-old Emma, a bright little girl with curly brown hair and her mother's smile. His wife Sarah had died 3 years ago in a car accident, leaving Marcus alone to raise their daughter while working as a marketing analyst at Peterson & Associates, one of the largest advertising firms in the Midwest. Marcus had been at the company for 6 years, working directly under Victoria Hayes, the firm's vice president and the youngest executive in the company's history at 39 years old. Victoria was known for being brilliant, demanding, and completely professional. She had dark red hair always pulled into a tight bun, sharp green eyes that missed nothing, and a reputation for firing people who made mistakes. Everyone at Peterson & Associates was terrified of her, including Marcus. That evening, Marcus had just put Emma to bed after helping her with homework and reading her favorite story. He was exhausted, as always, balancing single parenthood with a demanding career. He grabbed his Motorola flip phone to send a quick goodnight text to his sister Rachel, who lived in Boston, and called every night to check on him and Emma. He typed quickly, "Thanks for always being there for me. I love you. Good night." He hit send, then set the phone down and went to take a shower. 20 minutes later, as he was getting ready for bed, his pager started beeping frantically. He picked it up and saw multiple pages from the office emergency line, all marked urgent. His heart racing, Marcus grabbed his phone and called the number back. "Marcus Coleman speaking," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. There was a pause on the other end. Then Victoria Hayes's voice, cold and clipped. "Mr. Coleman, did you send me a text message approximately 23 minutes ago?" Marcus's blood ran cold. What? "No, I sent a text to my sister." He stopped, fumbling for his phone. He pulled up his sent messages and his stomach dropped through the floor. The message, "Thanks for always being there for me. I love you. Good night," had been sent not to Rachel but to Victoria. He must have selected her name by accident from his contacts. They were both near the top of his list, and in his exhaustion, he hadn't double-checked. "Oh my God," Marcus whispered, his face burning with mortification. "Ms. Hayes, I am so sorry. That text was meant for my sister. I must have selected the wrong contact. It was a complete accident, I swear. I would never—" "We need to talk," Victoria interrupted. "In person, tonight." "Tonight? But it's almost 11 o'clock and I have my daughter." "Then I'll come to you," Victoria said. "What's your address?" Marcus gave her his address in a daze, his mind racing with panic. This was it. He was going to be fired. Victoria Hayes was coming to his apartment at midnight to fire him in person, probably to make sure he understood how inappropriate his mistake was. He'd lose his job, his health insurance, his ability to support Emma, all because of one stupid text message sent to the wrong person. He quickly checked on Emma, who was sleeping peacefully in her room surrounded by stuffed animals. Then he paced his small living room, rehearsing apologies in his head, trying to figure out how to explain this disaster. Maybe he could find another job quickly. Maybe Rachel could lend him money until he got back on his feet. Maybe— A sharp knock on the door made him jump. Marcus took a deep breath and opened it. Victoria Hayes stood in his doorway, and Marcus barely recognized her. She wasn't wearing her usual severe business suit. Instead, she had on jeans and a simple sweater under her winter coat, her red hair loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back. She looked younger, softer, and there was something in her eyes that Marcus couldn't identify. Nervousness? Fear? "Ms. Hayes," Marcus said awkwardly, stepping aside. "Please come in. I'm so sorry about the mess. I wasn't expecting—" "It's fine," Victoria said quietly, stepping inside. She looked around the modest apartment, taking in the toys scattered on the floor, the crayon drawings taped to the refrigerator, the small but cozy space that Marcus and Emma called home. "You have a daughter?" "Yes, Emma. She's 7. She's asleep." Marcus gestured toward the couch. "Please sit down. Can I get you some coffee or—" "Marcus, stop," Victoria said, and her voice was gentler than he'd ever heard it. She sat on the couch and looked up at him. "I didn't come here to fire you." Marcus blinked. "You didn't?" "No." Victoria took a deep breath. "I came here because that text message you sent me, even though it was an accident, it made me realize something. Made me admit something to myself that I've been denying for a very long time." Marcus sat down slowly in the chair across from her, completely confused. "I don't understand." Victoria looked down at her hands. "For the past 2 years, I've been watching you, Marcus, the way you work so hard, the way you never complain even when I know you're exhausted. I've heard you on the phone with your daughter, the patience in your voice, the love. I've seen you stay late to finish projects and then rush out to pick her up from after-school care. I've seen the photos on your desk of the two of you, the way you smile in those pictures." She paused. "And I've been falling in love with you." Marcus felt like the floor had disappeared beneath him. "What?" "I know it's completely inappropriate," Victoria continued, still not looking at him. "You work for me. I'm your boss. I've tried to ignore it, tried to push it away, tried to be nothing but professional. But when I got that text tonight, when I saw those words, 'I love you,' from you, even knowing it was a mistake, my heart just—" She finally looked up, and there were tears in her eyes. "I couldn't pretend anymore. I had to tell you the truth, even if it ruins everything, even if you think I'm crazy." Marcus stared at her, his mind reeling. Victoria Hayes, the ice queen of Peterson and Associates, the woman everyone feared, was sitting in his living room telling him she was in love with him. It was impossible. It was insane. It was— "I think about you too," Marcus heard himself say, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. "I have been for months, maybe longer. The way you smile when you think no one's watching. The way you fight for your team in meetings. The way you remember everyone's birthdays. I've been telling myself it was just admiration, just respect for a good boss, but—" He ran his hands through his hair. "Victoria, I think I might be falling in love with you too." They sat in stunned silence, staring at each other across the small living room. Then Victoria laughed, a real genuine laugh that Marcus had never heard from her before. "This is insane. This whole situation is completely insane." "Completely," Marcus agreed, but he was smiling too. "What do we do now?" Victoria's smile faded. "I don't know. The company has strict policies about relationships between supervisors and subordinates. If anyone found out, one of us would have to transfer departments or leave the company entirely. And given that I'm the VP and you're an analyst, you know who that would be." Marcus nodded slowly. "I can't afford to lose this job. Emma's health insurance, her school, everything depends on my salary and benefits." "I know," Victoria said. "Which is why this can't happen. We can't act on this no matter how we feel. It's not fair to you, it's not fair to your daughter." "You're right," Marcus said, but his heart was breaking. To finally find someone who understood him, who made his heart race, who saw him not just as a struggling single father, but as a person worth loving, and to have to walk away from it because of company policy, it was cruel. Victoria stood up. "I should go." I'm sorry I came here. I shouldn't have said anything. Tomorrow we'll go back to being professional. We'll pretend this conversation never happened." "Wait," Marcus said, standing too. "Just wait. Before you go, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "How long have you felt this way?" Victoria smiled sadly. "Do you remember the Christmas party 2 years ago? You brought Emma because you couldn't find a sitter. She was 5 years old, wearing that red velvet dress, and she was so shy around all the adults. You spent the whole party making sure she was comfortable, getting her cookies, introducing her to people gently. You danced with her to the Christmas music, and she stood on your feet while you waltzed around. You were the only person who brought their child, and everyone thought it was unprofessional, but you didn't care. You just wanted her to feel included in your life." Victoria's voice cracked. "I watched you with her, and I thought, that's what love looks like. That's what I want, and I've been fighting it ever since." Marcus remembered that night. He'd been so nervous about bringing Emma, worried people would judge him, but she'd been so excited about the party that he couldn't say no. "I remember, you came over and talked to Emma about her favorite books. You knew every character from the stories she loved. She talked about you for weeks after that." "I did research," Victoria admitted. "After I met her that night, I went to the library and read all those books so I could talk to her about them if I ever saw her again. I wanted to be someone special in her life, even if I could never be anything more than your boss." They stood facing each other, the air between them charged with everything they couldn't have, everything they had to deny. Then, without thinking, Marcus reached out and took Victoria's hand. She didn't pull away. "What if we were careful?" Marcus said quietly. "What if no one at the office knew? We could just see where this goes, privately." "That's a terrible idea," Victoria said, but she didn't let go of his hand. "If we got caught, both our careers would be destroyed. The scandal would be enormous, and Emma, she'd be affected too." "I know," Marcus said, "but Victoria, I've been alone for 3 years. I've been so focused on being a good father, on providing for Emma, that I forgot I'm allowed to be happy too. And when I'm around you, even just in meetings, even just passing you in the hallway, I feel something I haven't felt since Sarah died. I feel alive." Victoria squeezed his hand. "I've been married to my career for so long that I forgot what it felt like to want something just for myself, to want someone. But Marcus, if this goes wrong, then we'll deal with it," Marcus said. "Together? But what if it goes right? What if this is something real and we throw it away because we're too scared to try?" Victoria looked at him for a long moment. Then she stood on her toes and kissed him, soft and tentative. Marcus kissed her back, wrapping his arms around her, and for the first time in years, he felt complete. They dated in secret for 6 months. At work, they were completely professional. Victoria was still the demanding boss. Marcus was still the dedicated employee. They never arrived together, never left together, never gave any sign that they were anything more than supervisor and subordinate. But after hours, they built a life together. Victoria came to Marcus's apartment for dinner 3 nights a week. She learned to cook Emma's favorite meals. She helped with homework, read bedtime stories, and slowly became a fixture in their lives. Emma, who had been shy and withdrawn since her mother's death, blossomed under Victoria's attention. She started smiling more, laughing more, talking about the future with excitement. Marcus met Victoria's father, a retired professor who lived in the suburbs. He brought Emma along, and the old man fell in love with the little girl immediately. They spent weekends at his house, playing in the yard, baking cookies, being a family, but keeping the relationship secret was exhausting. They couldn't go out to restaurants in Chicago, couldn't be seen together anywhere someone from the office might spot them. They had to coordinate their schedules carefully, making sure they were never both absent from work at suspicious times. The stress was building. Then, 8 months into their relationship, everything fell apart. A colleague named Derek Morrison saw Marcus's car parked outside Victoria's apartment building at 6 in the morning. Derek was a vindictive man who had applied for Marcus's position and lost. He started watching them, gathering evidence. He saw them together at a grocery store in a suburb far from their homes. He noticed the way Victoria smiled when Marcus entered a room. He built a case. Derek went to the company's HR department with his suspicions. An investigation was launched. Marcus and Victoria were called into separate meetings and questioned about their relationship. They both denied everything at first, but the evidence was mounting. The investigator asked Marcus point blank, "Are you romantically involved with Victoria Hayes?" Marcus thought about Emma, about the life they'd built, about Victoria reading stories at bedtime and teaching his daughter to braid her hair. He thought about the way Victoria had brought light back into their dark world, and he made a decision. "Yes," he said, "I am. We've been together for 8 months. I love her, and she loves me." The investigator's face was grim. "You understand that this is a violation of company policy. One of you will have to resign." "I know," Marcus said. "I'll resign. I'll do it today. Just please don't punish Victoria for this. It was my fault. I pursued her." "That's not true." Victoria's voice came from the doorway. She walked into the room, her face pale but determined. "I pursued him. I told him I loved him first. If anyone should resign, it should be me." "Victoria, no." Marcus stood up. "You've worked too hard for this position. Your career doesn't matter if I'm miserable," Victoria interrupted. "Marcus, you have Emma to support. You need this job more than I do. I have savings, I have options. You're not sacrificing your daughter's security for me." They argued while the investigator watched in silence. Finally, she held up her hand. "There might be another solution. The company is opening a new office in Milwaukee. It's a smaller operation, but they need a senior manager to run it. The position would be a lateral move salary-wise from your current position, Ms. Hayes, but it would be a different division of the company. Mr. Coleman could stay here in Chicago under different management." Victoria and Marcus looked at each other. Milwaukee was 90 miles away, an hour-and-a-half drive. They'd see each other on weekends, maybe one night during the week if they pushed it. "I'll take it," Victoria said immediately. The transition was hard. Victoria moved to Milwaukee and threw herself into building the new office. Marcus stayed in Chicago, now reporting to a new supervisor who was professional but cold. Emma cried the first weekend Victoria didn't come home, not understanding why the woman who had become so important to her life was suddenly gone during the week. But they made it work. Every Friday evening, Victoria drove to Chicago and spent the weekend with Marcus and Emma. They went to parks, visited museums, did normal family things without having to hide. Emma called Victoria Tori and introduced her to everyone as her dad's girlfriend, beaming with pride. 2 years later, Victoria's Milwaukee office was thriving. She'd built it into one of the most successful divisions in the company. The CEO called her back to Chicago with an offer, executive vice president of the entire company, a position that would make her one of the highest-ranking women in the advertising industry in the Midwest. She'd be Marcus's boss again, technically, but with so many layers of management between them that the relationship wouldn't be a policy violation. Victoria accepted on one condition: Marcus would be promoted to senior analyst with a significant raise and better benefits for Emma. The CEO agreed. On their 3-year anniversary, Marcus took Victoria and Emma to Navy Pier. It was a warm summer evening, the kind that made Chicago feel magical. They rode the Ferris wheel. Emma squeezed between them, pointing out the boats on Lake Michigan and the lights of the city skyline. When they got off the ride, Marcus got down on one knee right there on the pier. He pulled out a ring he'd been saving for months to buy. "Victoria Hayes, you changed my life with one accidental text message. You brought joy back to our home. You taught Emma that it's okay to love again, to let people in. You made me believe in second chances. Will you marry me?" Victoria was crying, nodding before he even finished the question. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." Emma was jumping up and down, squealing with excitement. "Does this mean Tori's going to be my mom?" Victoria knelt down to Emma's level. "If that's okay with you. I could never replace your mom, and I would never try, but I love you so much, and I would be honored to be your stepmom." Emma threw her arms around Victoria's neck. "I want that more than anything." They got married 6 months later, in a small ceremony with close family and friends. Emma was the flower girl, wearing a white dress with a blue sash that matched Victoria's bouquet. Rachel flew in from Boston and cried through the entire ceremony. Victoria's father walked her down the aisle, beaming with pride. At the reception, Derek Morrison, the colleague who had reported them and inadvertently set everything in motion, approached them awkwardly. "I wanted to apologize," he said stiffly. "I thought I was doing the right thing, protecting the company's interests. I didn't think about what it would do to you personally. But I've watched from afar how happy you are, how good you are together. I was wrong to interfere." Marcus surprised everyone, including himself, by shaking Derek's hand. "You know what? If you hadn't reported us, we might have kept hiding forever. We might have let fear control us instead of taking the risk to build something real. So in a weird way, thank you. You forced us to be honest, and that honesty led us here." Derek looked stunned, then grateful. He shook Victoria's hand too, and left the reception with a weight lifted from his shoulders. 5 years after the wedding, Victoria was promoted to CEO of Peterson and Associates. Marcus was now a vice president, having earned his position through years of exceptional work. Emma was 13, a confident teenager who wanted to study business in college so she could be smart and powerful like Mom, meaning Victoria. One evening, as they sat at dinner in the house they'd bought together in a quiet Chicago suburb, Emma asked a question she'd been saving for the right moment. "Dad, do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't sent that text to Tori by accident? Would you have ever told her how you felt?" Marcus looked at Victoria across the table. She reached over and took his hand. "Honestly, sweetheart, I don't know. I was so scared of messing things up, so worried about what people would think. I might have stayed silent forever." "I would have too," Victoria admitted. "I had convinced myself that being professional meant being alone, that success and love couldn't coexist. That text message, even though it was a mistake, it gave me permission to be honest about what I wanted. It changed everything." Emma smiled. "So sometimes mistakes turn out to be the best things that ever happen." "Sometimes they do," Marcus agreed. "But you have to be brave enough to see the opportunity in the mistake. You have to be willing to take a risk on something that scares you." Years later, when Emma graduated from Northwestern University with honors, she gave a speech at the graduation ceremony. She talked about resilience, about love, about second chances. She told the story of how her father had accidentally texted, "I love you," to his boss, and how that mistake had led to a love story that changed 3 lives forever. "My family taught me that it's okay to make mistakes," Emma said to the crowd of graduates and their families. "What matters is what you do after the mistake. Do you hide from it, or do you face it with courage? Do you let fear win, or do you take a risk on something beautiful? My parents took the risk, and they built a life full of love and trust and honesty. That's the kind of life I want to build too." Victoria and Marcus sat in the audience holding hands, both crying with pride. Their accidental beginning had led to an intentional life, built day by day through choice and commitment and love. When people asked Victoria about her success, about how she'd risen to the top of a male-dominated industry while also building a family, she always said the same thing. I learned that you can't separate your personal life from your professional life and expect to be whole. The moment I stopped trying to be just a boss, just an executive, and allowed myself to also be a woman in love, a partner, a mother, that's when everything clicked into place. My family makes me stronger at work. My work makes me more disciplined at home. They're not competing forces, they're complementary. Marcus, when asked how he managed to balance being a single father with a demanding career and then a husband to such a powerful woman, always smiled and said, I learned to ask for help. I learned that love doesn't make you weak, it makes you brave. And I learned that sometimes the best things in life come from the mistakes you're most afraid of making. The text message that changed everything was saved on both their phones, transferred from device to device as technology evolved. Thanks for always being there for me. I love you. Good night. A simple message sent to the wrong person at exactly the right time. Because sometimes the wrong number leads to the right person. Sometimes a mistake is actually the universe pushing you toward the life you were meant to live. Sometimes 3 simple words, sent in error, are exactly what 2 lonely people need to hear to take a chance on love. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever made a mistake that turned into something beautiful? Have you ever taken a risk on love, even when everyone said it was wrong? Share your story in the comments, because these moments of courage deserve to be celebrated. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more inspiring stories about second chances, unexpected love, and the courage it takes to build the life you really want. Your engagement helps us reach more people who need to hear that it's never too late for a new beginning.